picked this date, we don't think when we picked this date, we actually knew how relevant it would be. But today, many of you probably know, Governor Murphy had the State of the State address, which we have just returned from within the last couple of hours. And we're going to post in the chat for you New Jersey Citizen Action's statement on the State of the State. We have worked alongside Governor Murphy since before he became governor. We were excited he was coming to Trenton. We did a lot of transformative reforms throughout his first term in the areas of healthcare and workplace justice and a number of other important things that we were able to move that really were impactful for the people of New Jersey. And our statement today really calls on the governor to return to being a champion of those transformative reforms. Since his leadership throughout the pandemic, he's kind of slowed and in some places even worked against some of the reforms that we have really been pushing for. And you're going to hear a little bit about those tonight. We really have been urging the governor to get more proactive and to really help champion and build on the causes and the programs that he and his administration and all of us have helped to launch and initiate. So it was a bit of a mixed bag for us today. We hope the conversation continues, but we do think that this is a year in which we will need a lot of grassroots support and a lot of people taking action to really hold our legislature and the governor accountable to follow through and continue to build on the progress that we've achieved to date. So I think someone has posted, Montagina, who's helping us with our comm stuff today, has posted our statement in the chat. When you have a chance, please feel free to download it. But we wanted to bring that to your attention before we dive in. Some of the issues that you'll hear about tonight are ones that we really are, hoping that the governor will support. And we're asking for his leadership in doing that as we try to move these things through the legislature. So with that, I'm going to dive into our first issue, which is ending auto rate discrimination. Auto rate discrimination is an issue that Citizen Action and a coalition of our partners have been working on for the better part of a decade. And this is the discrimination itself really is the result of a rule that allows auto insurers to use social and economic factors to set the price of their auto insurance. Things like credit history, education, your occupation, your marital status, whether or not you own a home, those things are used and weighted in determining premiums for auto insurance. It's very difficult, the transparency around how insurance companies use these factors and to which factors they put the most weight on is very hard to get to because each one has their own formula and they are not really transparent about how this works. But what we do know is that from all of the analysis that has been done and the history of using these factors, that Black, brown, and low-income drivers are paying disproportionately higher rates for their auto insurance than white, suburban, middle-class drivers. That is something that holds true no matter who's doing the analysis. It cannot be explained away by other factors that are related to driving risk, things like whether or not you live in a zip code where you have to use street parking and there's a lot of density and a lot more traffic. Even when addressing those factors, if you use education, occupation, and credit score, it compounds the price that individuals are paying. And we are seeing significant overpayment by thousands, millions actually, of drivers in the state of New Jersey. So this is something we have called on the legislature to address. While insurers, don't overtly use race in setting their rates, they have seen, and we have seen through all of the data, that these factors have a discriminatory impact because of the long history of systemic racism that has impacted the ability of people who are low income in communities of color to secure housing, financing, credit, education. These are all things many people don't have control over and should not impact whether or not they are rated at a higher risk in driving. They can be a completely safe driver, and if their credit is not as good as the next driver, they're paying more money. That is inherently unfair, it's inherently discriminatory, and it's a practice that Citizen Action and many of our partners are calling on the legislature to put an end to here in New Jersey. What can you do? We actually have a campaign page on this. You can go to our website for more information on the campaign, but we have an action. Many of you may have seen it in the past. We continue to update this action, and we are urging you to contact your legislators and legislative leadership to ask them to sponsor and support this bill. The links in this PowerPoint, which we will send you tomorrow, actually include a link to the bill. And if you go onto the campaign page, you will see a one-pager that gives you some examples of some of the ways in which people are paying a lot more money for their auto insurance. So that's one of the things we would really like to see leadership from our representatives, as well as Governor Murphy, to put an end to the discrimination. It's really, time is now, and we really would like to see this happen before June. So with that, we can open it up to questions you might have on this before we turn it over to Laura, who's going to cover some of the healthcare priorities that we're working on.
Right, yeah, so we'll open up to questions. Just so folks know, this is not being streamed on Facebook or any social media. We are recording it, but it's to share it with folks who weren't able to attend tonight. But we won't be publicly posting it on social media. So just so folks know before they ask. I know some people are weary depending on what's going on with this recording before they ask questions, but let's open up to questions. We definitely want people to feel like they understand this issue and this policy, what we're working on, and where, what the current state is of this legislation. Winsome, do you have a question? No, muting. You can feel free just to unmute yourself and ask your question. If you prefer to raise your hand, you can raise your hand. You will need to unmute yourself to ask the question, though. I did make sure everyone was muted while Maura was speaking, so we wouldn't have interruptions.
No question, thank you.
Okay.
All right, well, looks like there aren't any questions for this particular campaign, Maura, so we can move on to Laura.
Yeah, so I'm going to turn it over to Laura, who was our healthcare program director, and she's going to go over some of the priorities in her bucket of work.
Thanks, Maura and Liz, and good evening, everyone. Thanks again for joining us tonight. I just want to talk a little bit about some of our healthcare priorities and hopefully hear from all of you and ask all of you to join us in supporting them. First up is our Prescription Drug Affordability Board legislation. It is A1747 S329. I know that this is no of no surprise to all of you that, healthcare costs continue to rise for everyone. And, we're all struggling to be able to afford these costs. And the largest driver of healthcare premium dollars is prescription drugs. And so we need to do something about this, obviously, and we need reform that will be targeted, meaningful, and reform that all of us can feel at the pharmacy counter. That's where it counts, right? So this particular legislation is really the only legislation being considered before the legislature that offers a mechanism to address these unchecked skyrocketing prices of prescription drugs. And essentially what it would do is it would create a board or establish a board of experts that would review the pharmaceutical system, all of its actors, manufacturers, pharmacy benefit managers, all of the actors within the system, and then provide the legislature with meaningful and actionable policy reforms that are directed at lowering the cost of prescription drugs for everyone. This is something that we have been working with the sponsors, primary sponsors, Senator Singleton and Assemblyman McKeon, for about 3 years now. It is currently been referred to the Assembly Appropriations Committee and the Senate Budget Committee. It's gone through Senate Health and Assembly Financial Institutions and Assembly Health as well. So it has been making its way through. It has a short way to go, but in some ways it still has a long way to go. Sometimes we feel, but we do believe that we have the votes in the Senate. We have, it has currently 18 Senate sponsors and 26 Assembly sponsors. And by our count, we have other commitments as well to support from legislators recently. So we do believe that it is very strong in the Senate, and we see no reason why it can't move now. So we would like to have you make your voices heard. Let our legislative body know that you would like to see action on prescription drug affordability with a prescription drug affordability board. Let the governor know. Take this action at njcitizenaction.org/PDAB. And, let them hear from you and how important this is for you. There will be a report released soon that is showing that, New Jerseyans the situation is getting worse in New Jersey. And there are 1 in 4 New Jerseyans now who are struggling to afford prescription drugs or cutting pills in half. And that's kind of gone up just in the last 2 years. So things aren't getting better, and we can't continue to wait. And so we would like all of you to join us in support of raising this issue and supporting the movement of this bill through the legislature. Any questions before I go to the next slide? Okay. So I also wanted to talk about health insurance coverage. The first up, we are in open
Actually,
enrollment.
Laura, there's
Oh,
one
there's a
person
question.
hand raised, Susan Coleman. So Susan,
Yeah.
did you? Yes.
Yes, I do have a question. So this board then will arrive at recommendations, then those recommendations would have to be enacted by the legislature?
Yes, that's correct. The board would create actionable policy recommendations that they would provide to the legislature, and the legislature would make the decision and act on them and need to pass those policies.
And is there precedent in other states for taking action specifically to control pharmaceutical costs?
Thank you. Yes. So this has been something, a Prescription Drug Affordability Board legislation has been passed in 6 or 7 other states. The first one actually is Maryland, and that is the state, I believe, that is the farthest along in their activation of their board. I believe their bill passed in 2019, but there's Maryland, there's Colorado, Oregon, Washington State, Maine, and I believe New Hampshire. So it's spreading across the country. There's no reason why New Jersey cannot join them. And, this is an opportunity for us to kind of get ahead of the curve here and really bring something that will be more meaningful to all of our residents, really.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? If you think of any, just jump in. But I did want to talk a little bit about a lot of things that are happening under health insurance coverage. One, and the first, is that this is open enrollment season. So our open enrollment period, it started back in November, and it ends at the end of January 31st. So if you, your family, neighbors, anyone that you know need health coverage for this year, 2023, there is still a chance and an opportunity for you to enroll in coverage through our state marketplace if you don't already get it through your employer. There's financial assistance available. Typically 9 out of 10 people enrollees qualify for financial assistance. And something that's new with this open enrollment time is that families, even with employer coverage, may qualify for a marketplace plan. So all you need to do is give a call. New Jersey Citizen Action has enrollment assisters waiting and eager to help you enroll in coverage in English or in Spanish. Our a number to reach us is 888-654-3893. You can also make an appointment to schedule an appointment for enrollment assistance at getcovered@njcitizenaction.org. Or sometimes you might want to just enroll yourself online, so you can go to getcovered.nj.gov to do that. And then I know that many of you have helped to support our Cover All Kids legislation as we were looking to pass it a few years ago, and we were able to expand New Jersey Family Care to include this initiative and to include our undocumented individuals and children, to also invite them to be eligible for coverage through New Jersey Family Care. So just wanted to let you all know that as of January 1st of this year, children under 19 may now apply for New Jersey Family Care coverage regardless of their immigration status. And they will need to, all of the requirements of New Jersey Family Care still apply, but the big news is that phase 2 of Cover All Kids is finally active, and our enrollment assisters are here to help if you would like assistance there. Again, our number there is 888-654-3893, and the email address is on the screen for you to make an appointment, to schedule an appointment for enrollment. And again, if you'd like to just enroll yourself, you can go on njfamilycare.org to enroll yourself or your family. And lastly, I wanted to let you know, you may have been hearing in the news that there has been a change in the Medicaid rule for the last, well, since the pandemic, really. There have those who have been on New Jersey Family Care or Medicaid have had what's called continuous eligibility. So the annual renewal process has not has allowed for everyone who was enrolled in New Jersey Family Care to stay on New Jersey Family Care. And so starting April 1st of this year, the annual renewal and redetermination process will start again. And so we just wanted to make sure that you are aware of this, also to look for any communication from New Jersey Family Care to be mailed to you. Make sure that your address is up to date. And if you would like to reach out and update your address, if you've moved over the course of the pandemic, you can call 800-701-0710 to update your address. So I just wanted to let you all know that that was coming, and just to pay attention to your mailbox in case you would have seen something coming from New Jersey Family Care. So if you share that within your networks and your neighbors and friends, just to have them aware that changes are coming in the world of New Jersey Family Care coverage determinations. And any questions on healthcare, on enrollment, on Cover All Kids, on redeterminations in New Jersey Family Care, or on the Prescription Drug Affordability Board?
If anyone has any questions, you can just unmute yourself and jump in, or if you prefer, you can just raise your hand and I can help make sure you're unmuted. So again, questions for Laura on health insurance coverage.
Yeah, while we're waiting, Liz, this is Mara. I just want to, emphasize what Laura was talking about with the Medicaid changes coming in. The reason that we raise this, maybe someone in your family or in your circle that is covered by New Jersey Family Care. We expect, the estimates are that hundreds of thousands of people will be found to no longer be eligible for this program. This is one of the biggest shifts in healthcare coverage since the inception of the Affordable Care Act. We have 2 million people on New Jersey Family Care, and hundreds and thousands of them could in fact lose coverage, and they will need to be paying attention to this, and will have an opportunity to sign up for coverage through the ACA marketplace if they are determined to no longer be eligible for family care. But it is a huge shift, and one that really is going to require like an all hands on deck moment to really help promote the information and make sure that this is getting out to people. So if that's something you're interested in, a little later, we're going to post an email that is goes to our general organizing team. We would love to have you share in posting these things just for healthcare and any other of these activities we're talking about tonight on your social media, because that can help us get the word out.
And then Maura, just so folks are clear on that, that when folks, if someone is, determined to be no longer eligible for Medicaid, that allows them to immediately enroll. Even though open enrollment ends January 31st, they will be able to still enroll in the ACA because they have, I forget the term, it's
Special
a
enrollment.
special enrollment because they are losing their other coverage. Questions for Laura? I don't think I see any questions here. So, Laura, do you have anything else to cover here? Are we moving on?
No, I'm good, I'm done, but again, if anyone does have any questions now, you can put it in the chat or feel free to send it to us and I can get back to you.
Well, we're now going to move on to Beverly, who will talk about an issue that we've actually been working on for a long time and kind of talk about some current updates with it. This is kind of more on the radar. It's not as much of an urgent current piece of legislation in the legislature, but we felt like it was important stuff to share with you guys since it is currently something that we are prioritizing.
Thank you,
So,
Liz.
yeah.
Okay. Hi, I am Beverly Brown-Rudra, and I am the Financial Justice Program Director at New Jersey Citizen Action. And as Liz says, I'm not going to be talking about specific legislation right now. What I'm going to talk about is work that there's ongoing at Citizen Action, and we're hoping that you will take an interest and get involved and support the work that we do in this area. And so generally speaking, I'm going to talk about housing, and more specifically, I'm going to talk about the Community Reinvestment Act and the work that we do related to it. So, Citizen Action in general has been involved with housing advocacy for many years. I think that for the most part, many of you know our work in housing because of our direct services through HUD. We are certified housing counselors. We provide first-time homebuyer counseling, foreclosure prevention counseling, more recently, eviction prevention counseling. And we also do through HUD housing discrimination investigations. But we also, as you may know, do a lot of advocacy for affordable housing, against housing discrimination, prevent predatory lending in the housing space. And we are also working to protect New Jerseyans from unfair and illegal evictions or foreclosures. And more recently, looking at the impact of inaccurate credit reporting on access to housing. But what I want to touch on very quickly right now is our work in the implementation and strengthening of CRA, the Community Reinvestment Act. Next slide, Mumtahina. So I'm not going to go deep into I'm not going to deep dive, but just very quickly, the Community Reinvestment Act was passed in 1977, for those who don't know, to fight redlining, to end what was deliberate discrimination against communities of color and lower income communities across the United States, preventing them from having access to loans for mortgages, being able to move to different neighborhoods, loans for small businesses, et cetera. And throughout, since 1977, organizations like Citizen Action have worked to hold financial institutions to the requirements of CRA, and that is to invest equitably in the communities where they do business, and particularly to make sure that they are lending and providing services equitably in low and moderate income communities and communities of color, and where previously rampant discrimination had taken place. We work with banks to develop products that serve the needs of all New Jerseyans. We report bad and good bank practices to regulators, and we also monitor the merger activity, which can have a huge impact on communities. When banks merge, they get bigger. Sometimes they close a lot of branches, et cetera. So, what's on deck in 2023 in the CRA space? What we really want to be doing is holding banks much more accountable for their practices in our communities across the state. We need to be exposing and stopping redlining and housing discrimination much more vigorously. in 2022, Lakeland Bank in New Jersey was settled with the Department of Justice to pay $13 million for their redlining practices. This was the third largest settlement with the DOJ for redlining in the history of the DOJ. Unfortunately, New Jersey had another bank that was one of the second highest settlements in the history of the DOJ several years ago. And what that means is these banks were found to have committed blatant discrimination, expanding the racial wealth gap across our community by denying people access to home ownership that is needed to build, middle-class wealth, et cetera. It also means that they aren't necessarily lending for community development. We need to be making sure that these banks are providing the money that's necessary for developers to build affordable housing, rental and home for home ownership. We monitor their mergers, and we need to make sure that if a bank applies to merge, that the regulators are examining their behavior, their practice, their history very carefully, and denying them the ability to get bigger if they are not living up to their CRA obligations and providing New Jerseyans with the services and the lending services and banking services that they need. We also need to be pressuring Congress to strengthen CRA. CRA does not have a lot of teeth. And I want to emphasize that CRA is only one of the tools that we need to be implementing to fight the affordable housing shortages that we're facing. We know that LLCs are buying up properties that normally lower and moderate income people and people of color would be buying. That's another issue. There's appraisal discrimination, but CRA is a tool that we can use and we should be using. And we invite you to join us in our CRA activities. And again, I'm not going to go any further in this, but if you can reach out to me to find out more about the activities related to CRA that Citizen Action is engaging in. And we really want to ramp up these activities in 2023, given the exploding housing crisis that we're facing in the state. Where I live in Jersey City, New York Times reported the average rent is $5,500. We have a shortage of rental housing for extremely low income people and people below 50% AMI. And we need to be working to change that as quickly as we can. And I see there's a couple of questions. Should I call on somebody,
I
Liz?
can call someone. I see here, Kevin Doherty, your hand's up.
Yes, thank you. Beverly, I wanted to ask you, as I understand it, the CRA is federal regulation, isn't it?
It is.
Is there anything that can be done at the state level, not just in terms of administrative action, but in terms of law, to either extend or back up the federal legislation?
There isn't much. However, some of the things that we've been doing in terms of with other organizations, I don't know if anybody's on from the Institute for Social Justice, looking at appraisal discrimination, for instance. So it's not exactly it's not directly a part of CRA, but in terms of fighting discrimination, there are things that we're trying to do at the state level. Appraisal discrimination, I think you've probably read about, where one couple, a white couple is given one number 20-30% higher for a property that's exactly the same that a couple of color owns. And so there is legislation passing through the state at this time. I will say there's movement across the country to establish state CRA. And the reason for that is that about 80% of mortgages are not provided by banks anymore. They're by non-banks, fintechs, financial technology companies. And so New York, Illinois, Massachusetts have passed state laws to that include oversight of their CRA laws that include oversight of non-banks. But I think we want to squeeze as much as we can out of the federal. And I think probably at the state level, it's also calling on our legislators to acknowledge this. I mean, I didn't hear any statements from legislators or administration about this last case of redlining. Our AGs need to be looking at what's happening here in terms of we have state discrimination laws as well that need to be implemented strongly. So it may not be directly, CRA is not directly something that's implemented at the state level, but there are intersecting policies that can be implemented at the state level that should bolster and extend the spirit of CRA. And just holding the banks accountable. I think there should be much more weighing in by leadership in the state when we see these cases. I see there's a question, who was the other bank? It was several years ago, it was Hudson City Savings Bank that was acquired by M&T Bank, and they were fined $27 million by the DOJ. And I must say that when that happens, we work with the banks to actually implement some of the consent orders. That means they had to open up a new branch. They're going to have to open up branches. Lakeland will have to open up new branches. The last bank that M&T bought, Hudson City Savings, they had to provide down payment assistance programs for home buyers in the communities that were impacted by the discrimination perpetrated by Hudson City Savings. Lakeland is now, Provident Bank has applied to buy Lakeland. We want people to weigh in on that. People should be saying, okay, if you're going to buy this bank, you've got to demonstrate that you're going to be a better bank. Provident so far is a better bank, but we want to make sure that a bigger bank is not going to bring along any of the bad practices from the bank that was guilty of discrimination. So that's where the public really and organizations and advocates should be weighing in much more than we are to the regulators. We need to be pointing out when the banks should not be allowed to merge if they're not performing and delivering what they should be delivering to the community. And a lot of that is community development, which has to do with building affordable housing, small business lending. It's more than just mortgage lending. So and branches, we're seeing branches closing in unprecedented numbers. So there's a lot of things that we need to be weighing in on. Again, this is just one part of the fight to protect homes, housing, and it's actually neighborhood revitalization and neighborhood stabilization that's at stake as well. I hope that answers your question, Kevin. Hazel.
I have a question.
Oh, sure.
I've been looking at issues on the federal level recently, and I happen to notice that one of our senators, Senator Menendez, is on the Senate Banking and the Senate Finance Committee. So even if this is not an optimal time to get progressive legislation through Congress, is he interested in these issues? Have you brought them up with him?
He is, and we over the years, throughout his tenure, precisely because he sits on that committee, we spend a lot of time with Senator Menendez's office. Years ago, when the affordable housing goals, the national affordable housing goals were under threat, we worked and with him to protect those housing goals. But that doesn't mean that he shouldn't hear from people. But he has traditionally been a champion of affordable housing issues at the federal level. And he's also supported the CFPB, which is another agency that has cracked down on predatory lending, mortgage lending. So, but reach out. The more anybody like Senator Menendez hears from all of you activists, the more he'll stay on the dime and not waver. It's important. I think Hazel had a question, maybe not.
Hi, everyone. New to the call, Hazel Applewhite from Ironbound Community Corporation.
Hi, Hazel.
Hi, that was kind of like my question also, right? Like, how do we, just keep on pressing on these issues? So, like you said, just reach out and so on. And kind of like having more info session around this, because I'm kind of new to this and I hopped on because I knew it was happening, right? And I know we don't have a lot of time to focus on this area. But like you said, it is a crisis, right? Because affordable housing is no longer affordable anymore, and it's just going to get worse. So, is there, some other time, right, when we can have some discussions that's really just geared towards this, right?
Absolutely. And Hazel, I have to say, Ironbound has been one of our stalwart partners in the fight for protecting housing. And so, we look forward to continued work with you. Your presence at meetings, with leaders like Senator Menendez, whoever it is always helpful. And anybody on this call who, is active in housing, I hope that you'll reach out to me, because we do take people with us to these meetings both with elected officials and with the banks, because they need to know that the public is paying attention, both in terms of, the legislators, but also the banks need to know that the community is watching them and is interested in making sure that they're living up to their CRA obligations. And again, it's just one part of the fight, but it's something that we need to make sure we are utilizing as fully as we can. So Hazel, we will definitely be doing more and look forward to continue to have Ironbound on board with us in all this work.
Yes. Me too. We will. Thanks.
A question?
Yes.
Quick
You
question,
mentioned-
Peter?
Yes, you mentioned
Okay.
that 80% of the mortgages now are not from banks. So are those other financial institutions covered by the CRA or not?
They are not. And that is why I was saying that some states are moving towards, and we are considering doing something here in New Jersey, creating state CRAs that will cover them. They are regulated differently. And in many cases, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has stepped in to regulate the non-banks.
So that sounds like a very good idea then to take that.
I think it's something that we'd love to talk. We probably will do one of these information sessions on doing that, and it may end up being a big campaign that you'll have to know about in the near future.
Good idea.
Thank you.
Why don't we move on? We have one more area to share and discuss, and then we'll have more time at the end for any other last questions. Yarrow, I'm going to pass it on to you to talk about what's going on with paid leave for all.
Thank you. Thank you, Liz. Thanks so much. So yeah, my name is Yarrow. I am the Workplace Justice Program Director, and our area focuses on policies that support low and middle income workers and their families. And at the core of what we believe and fight for is, of course, a thriving economy that is also a caring economy. And so, of course, that starts with treating all workers as whole people who can afford and have the right to take time off work to care for themselves and their loved ones when they need it the most. So we focus much of our work on unpaid family and medical leave so that workers can maintain both their health and their well-being as well as their economic security. And so if you think about paid family leave, you might have an image of a new mom come to mind. But it's important to understand that the issue of paid leave touches workers across the spectrum of life, from both moms and dads bonding with new babies, but also when we need to care for aging loved ones, parents, and others, or even friends who are like family. This could be even a neighbor who might rely on you for care. So someone that you consider to be like family that you may not even be related to. So we need to think of parents, other caregivers of children with special needs, people who need to take time off to cope with domestic violence, members of our LGBTQ+ communities. Really everyone likely will need to take leave from work or rely on care from somebody in their life. So we do need to ensure that there is access to family leave for all. As you may know, we also still do not have a national paid family leave program. But New Jersey is one of a handful of states that has a paid family leave program. It's called Family Leave Insurance. And the program is actually almost 14 years old here. And we were able to actually improve the program recently in 2019. We were able to double the amount of time available, as well as increase the benefit amount and more. But we do still have gaps in access. And our effort really is seeking to address those gaps. And in particular, we have this issue of job protection. So right now, workers really, they cannot access their paid leave benefit and take their time because they may be fearing job loss or actually not covered by job protection laws. There's a few different statistics out there, but one of them is that 35% of workers in New Jersey aren't eligible for job protection, but it's likely that even a higher percentage of workers just are afraid of the repercussions for taking leave. And we believe, of course, that nobody should have to go without taking their time that they're entitled to when they need it, because they could lose their job. And it's important to note that most workers are contributing and paying for this benefit into this program. So really what we have in New Jersey as a leader on paid leave is we have a paid leave program, but we don't have the right to take it. So we're poised to launch this campaign, Access to Family Leave for All, that really puts job protections for workers while they're taking their paid leave time. And we're also doing some other things to increase access, such as changing the eligibility level so that lower earning individuals can become eligible, and also create an opt-in for self-employed workers, which does not exist currently, and some other fixes as well. So we don't have the bill introduced yet, but we hope to soon. And we're always happy to hear from you if you have stories related to needing to take leave. I have this link up here for you that you can do that. We work on these issues with the New Jersey Time to Care Coalition. And so if you're with an organization and you're not part of our coalition, we welcome you to join us. We are building that campaign and that coalition still, even though we're actually almost 20 years old, because we've been working on this issue in New Jersey for quite some time. So with that, I also just want to say, you know, it's important that we look at outreach and education, because our policies are only as good as people understand and are able to access them. So I actually want to invite my colleague Nat to share a little bit more about our efforts in that area.
Yeah, thank you, Yarrow. And hey, everyone, my name is Nat Mogay. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm a paid leave organizer. I work very closely with Yarrow with both the Time to Care Coalition and the New Jersey Paid Leave Outreach Collaborative. So we launched the Paid Leave Outreach Collaborative last year, and it works to increase workers and employers' awareness and understanding of paid leave in New Jersey so that all workers can access paid time off when they need it the most. So we have organizational members of the collaborative come together to meet, learn, discuss, and coordinate events. We have monthly work group meetings. So we have 5 work groups that help target outreach and education more precisely to different audiences. We have our employer HR work group, which we'll be having a meeting for that next week. We have our new parents, service providers, caregivers, and worker advocates care group. And we, bring together these organizations in order to plan outreach using an inclusive lens with a focus on accessibility for those hardest to reach. So if you want to learn more about that, you could actually go to our website, njploc.org. You could find more information about our work groups. There's an event page with a calendar, and you could find the schedule for our monthly steering committee meetings, our monthly work group meetings, and we also have quarterly convenings. Our next one will be in March, and we will be discussing the intersection of LGBTQ rights and paid leave, which I'm very excited for. And also, which is really exciting, is we are launching our 2023 Paid Leave Advocate Program, which will be a 10-month advocacy and organizing focused training program. And basically, this program will provide opportunities for advocates to network and build skills through comprehensive trainings. They will be sharing their stories, and they will be representing impacted workers in meetings with policymakers and potentially the press. We will be encouraging workers from marginalized communities who are more likely to face barriers to worker protection and access to paid leave. We're encouraging those people to apply as a paid leave advocate, and that includes lower income workers, women, LGBTQ+ individuals, people of color, and immigrants. So we will be actually launching, I think, we'll start advertising our application and letter tomorrow. And the application deadline is January 20th. So if you have any other questions, feel free to email me. I'll drop my email in the chat. And yeah, we can move on to the next slide.
So are there any questions for folks for Yarrow or Nat on our paid leave effort, or our policy priorities and our organizing efforts? Okay, well, you can again reach out to them directly if you have any direct questions or interest. Okay, so next slide here. So just want to remind folks that, New Jersey Citizen Action, we do our direct advocacy and organizing work, but we also do a lot of direct services, and we have a lot of free services for folks. So It's helpful for everyone here to also know all these services and to help spread the word to communities across the state that we're, New Jersey Citizen Action is here to help. So we do work with tax prep. The tax season is coming up. And folks can reach out to Naomi if they have interest or need help. Healthcare enrollment assistance for folks who are uninsured and need to kind of navigate the ACA enrollment process. We have a phone number where they can call 888-654-3893 or email getcovered@njcitizenaction.org. We also do financial coaching for individuals who are struggling with debt. And we have a direct phone number, and you can also email coach@njcitizenaction.org. We also work on housing discrimination. Folks can call the number or email fhintake@njcitizenaction.org. We also have an oil group, which it's like a co-op, right? People where there's discounted oil. So we're in the midst of winter. Many mild days, but we did have that cold snap that could come back again. So if folks who do use oil looking for discounted oil prices, you can contact Wendy. Her email's right here on the screen. We also do other free consumer education. And if anyone is looking for consumer education for their organization, you can email Irvin at njcitizenaction.org.
And Liz, I just wanted to take a chance. I noticed that Rosemary, who's the director of our empowerment services, was able to join us today. So I just wanted to, introduce her and give her a chance to talk a little bit about the overall programs that she leads.
Oh, thank you, Maura. Good evening, everyone. So I am fairly new to New Jersey Citizen Action, and as was said here, we have a host of free services. Laura mentioned earlier, we're in the middle of open enrollment. So our sisters are enrolling folks in healthcare through the marketplace. We're getting geared up for tax season. I believe we'll be taking in our first folks on January 18th or either the 23rd. Our housing discrimination program, we're doing community education and outreach. And we'll begin some investigation works again soon in the upcoming months. And, of course, our loan counselors, foreclosure prevention, and also our financial coaching services. So, again, those are the numbers and the links that you can contact us for more information. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Rosemary, so much for joining us. So any questions really quick for Rosemary while we have her on our direct services?
I just wanted to ask Rosemary, if you know, can you let people know what is the income limit for the free tax preparation service?
So the income limit is $100,000 for families. People should always inquire, and and we'll let you know whether folks meet those qualifications or not.
And I believe we're doing them by phone and drop off service.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
So that's our Halsey Street office. You can drop off your paperwork, and then they'll let you know when everything's ready to come and pick it up, or you can work with someone online, whatever your preference.
Yeah, so that has really expanded the reach of our services. We are located, our tax office is in downtown Newark, but we can service people all across the state. So please, if you need help with tax preparation, please reach out to Citizen Action. It's a free service, and we'll be happy to work with you or members of your family or those you know to prepare taxes this year.
So we'll go right into final questions. So Cookie, question?
I just wanted, hello, everyone. Happy everything. I just wanted to know a little bit more about this oil group co-op for low income, hopefully, homeowners that might be using oil or heating with oil, how that works?
So it is a
I-
membership.
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, a membership
Rosemary,
co-op.
great.
And I'm sorry, and so folks can join for a yearly membership fee. And then they get reduced rates for oil, but also for a complete range of services. So services to whether it's the boiler, the hot water heating, that type of thing. But yes, so it's a membership basis and anyone can call that number. And Wendy there will help them get membership, and it's a co-op. And so, the oil groups work together and able to get folks lower heating costs.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that membership, just so you know, is at a very nominal price. I believe is it 40 or 25? It's a nominal fee to enroll to be part of the co-op. So if you do heat your home with oil, I have a friend I just referred, and she saved hundreds of dollars from her first delivery prior to her being enrolled. She was very happy when I spoke to her over the weekend. So highly encourage people who have oil to go ahead and reach out.
Cookie, it's Beverly. I can say that I've had people that I've recommended are very pleased with it too. And because they freeze the price. So you know what you're going to be spending and they negotiate a good price. So it's really good.
I heard weatherization services as well. Is this program working through or with DCA at all in the weatherization programs throughout New Jersey? Or not?
I'm not aware that we do weatherization programs.
No.
No, yeah, we don't. There's other organizations in the state who do, but we don't currently.
Yeah, the Puerto Rican Action Board is one of them. I work there too, but somebody mentioned other direct services as part of this co-op. I thought I heard some kind of weatherization.
Oh, I think Rosemary was talking about like other services related to her boiler. So any other final questions?
We're losing your audio, Liz. So if maybe, if there's not a question right now, we can go on to the final slide, which we have our various calls to action. These are the links. And again, you will get these slides tomorrow along with a follow-up with the slides and everything you need to contact us. These are the links to the various actions where you can actually send an email or make contact with your legislators for each of these issues, or sign up to find out more about the Paid Leave for All campaign. We did want to let you know tonight, we have set up a briefing to discuss next steps in federal legislation. Citizen Action also does work on federal issues. We worked with a cohort of national groups to help fight for the Inflation Reduction Act and many of the programs that were part of that, particularly around the prescription drug reforms, which really are historic and have begun to be implemented as of January 1st of this year. So we wanted to have an opportunity to brief people who were interested on what actually is available to people beginning this January, what the benefits are that people can access, and also to talk about what the next steps are in federal legislation under this new 118th Congress. We do hope to have some guest speakers with us that night, but you can go ahead and register for the federal update. That will be on Tuesday, January 24th at 7 p.m. Format will be much like this. You'll have an opportunity to ask questions, but we will give you an overview of what you can expect will be moving and what the priorities will be, and also opportunities for how we will be organizing and advocating in response. So please do think about joining us if you're available. Liz, I don't know, have you gotten your audio
Yeah,
back?
my audio is back. So yeah, any final questions before we conclude here? I know we covered a lot and it's a lot to kind of take in. Like we said, we'll share the information through an email to everyone who registered. We'll share that email tomorrow. Any other final questions, comments before we close up here? I did want to try to make sure we close on, we're running a little bit behind, but I think we have a minute or two here if anyone has any final. Okay, great. Well, thanks everyone so much for joining us. Hope you all learned a lot. Hope folks join us again in 2 weeks on the 24th. We'll go about talking about what's going on with the federal level. I know a lot of people certainly were paying attention to what was going on the federal level last week with the circus in Congress. You know, and unfortunately, as we saw yesterday, there was already some news of bad bills that the House passed. So stay tuned. You know, in 2 weeks, we'll give folks an update about what's going on the federal level. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great night. Stay warm. Stay
Thank
healthy.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.